Now, 2 decades after the attainment of democracy, South Africa is said to have shown great change in its economic structure. But whether South Africa is doing enough to optimize its position as an investment destination, that's received critique. CNBC Africa's Panas Chigumadzi caught up with the MD of Goldman Sachs for Sub-Saharan Africa, Colin Coleman, for his insights on our growth.
The data I spoke about reflects a huge structural improvement in the South African economy since democracy. So you look back at the 2 decades of economic development, and what you see is a very significant rise from around 1.5 to doubling to 3.5% GDP growth per annum in the period 94 to 2007. Since 2007, a slightly slowing picture to 2.3%, but still over that period, higher growth, lower inflation, managed into the inflation targeting band, and a consequent rise in the middle class and participation in the economic sector.
South Africa has one of the most sophisticated financial markets and financial services. How can we then leverage that comparative advantage to then sort of bring something to the table to the BRICS partners?
Well, to be clear, South Africa has a market cap of around $800 billion and a GDP of around $400 billion. So the multiplier effect of 2 times market cap to GDP is rather unique in the world, and it reflects, as you say, a liquid capital market that is, from a financial global architecture point of view, very successful and a unique advantage. In Africa, against the backdrop of Africa, it's the only real functioning liquid capital market. There are other capital markets, but it's much smaller, much less liquid, and therefore as the African capital markets develop and Africa needs, as its economy grows, greater capital, South Africa is going to be a very important part of the transmission belt of capital into African development. And the BRICS and the BRICS Development Bank, which is under discussion, could benefit significantly from a relationship with South Africa's capital markets. I do believe the BRICS Development Bank, one of the key issues here is the provision of technical and financial capabilities to interface and be a filter between those supplying the capital and those countries that want to have bankable projects to develop the infrastructure of Africa.
Mm-hmm. Keeping in line with BRICS then, a major buzzword is infrastructure. South Africa and the rest of Africa lags behind in terms of its investment and capital formation. What then should governments be doing, especially now that we've got this leg up with this BRICS partnership? What should they be doing?
So what South Africa needs, and it came out very clearly from the statistics, it needs a productive public sector. A public sector that's less focused on consumption of salaries in the workforce in the public sector, more focused on outputs. So the fact is, on the health and education sector, we spend more and we achieve less. That's got to reverse. And in the infrastructure capital formation, we've got to get delivery of projects. Our biggest constraint has not been capital. Our biggest constraint has been management and delivery on time of infrastructure build-outs. In fact, we have in the South African construction, cement and manufacturing sector a significant capacity which needs to be put to work, both for South Africa and for Africa as a whole.
You mentioned something very positively, African Union Code of Conduct for companies doing business in Africa. Can you just outline what your proposal is for Dr. Dlamini Zuma?
Well, what I was suggesting is that she in the African Union should take the challenge up of agreeing an investment code which all the countries can sign off on, which effectively gives a message to the world as to what are the criteria and the parameters under which the African countries should engage with those investors in those countries. So it does address some of the criticisms that have been leveled at China, for example, about their investing in ways that don't necessarily benefit African countries. And I'm sure that the Chinese, inter alia, amongst others, would appreciate having something which guides the manner in which that investment takes place.